armed with the golden ticket from Silicon Valley's most elite accelerator. This startup's AI engine turns static designs into flawless front-end code. But when demo day yielded dead silence and zero funding, the company was violently sucked into the psychological torment of Pivot Hell. Desperately mutating its product to outrun tech giants, it starved right in the middle of the AI gold rush. Its name, CodeParrot. Welcome back to The Flop Side, the podcast where we uncover the stories of Indian startups that once soared only to come crashing down. I'm your host Priyanka, and last week we walked through the sterile, heavily regulated corridors of the Indian health insurance market, uncovering how a company was suffocated by fossilized bureaucracy. Today, we are going halfway across the world and stepping onto the most prestigious, high-stakes stage in the Silicon Valley ecosystem. Founded in 2022, this startup set out to conquer the hyper-accelerated, ruthlessly Darwinian world of artificial intelligence. They had the pedigree, they had the Y Combinator badge of honor. They were riding the biggest technological wave of the 21st century. And yet, 2.5 years later, they had to shut their doors, leaving behind a stark warning about the brutal realities of building in the AI era. This is the story of CodeParrot, where two brilliant founders found out the hard way that endlessly morphing a product to survive can completely hollow out a business.
Act 1. The Spark.
To understand the failure of CodeParrot, you first have to understand the caliber of the people who built it. These weren't your naive rookies hoping to get lucky in the tech startup world. They were hardened veterans who had already engineered massive exits and commanded unicorn-level infrastructure. If you looked at their resumes, success seemed almost guaranteed. Royal Jain, an IIT Bombay graduate, had already laid the technical groundwork for a voice AI startup scooped up by an American software company, RingCentral. He then stepped in as CTO for his next venture, driving it to a blistering $7 million in revenue before it was swallowed by an ed tech giant. Beside him was Vedant Agarwala, a two-time founder who dropped out of college, built a rapid delivery platform, and sold it before most of his peers even graduated. He later became the engineering muscle behind the billion-dollar jobs empire Apna, architecting systems designed to withstand a demanding 100 million requests every single day. On paper, they possess the exact firepower needed to automate the future of software. These two men understood the intricate, messy realities of shipping software at an enterprise scale. And because they understood it, they knew exactly where the pain points were. Now, for us to understand what exactly they were solving for, let's look into the software lifecycle. Think of it like opening a gigantic new suspension bridge. The steel is laid, the pavement is poured, and on paper, the math holds up perfectly. But before you let millions of real cars drive across it at rush hour, you have to violently stress test it. In the tech world, this is exactly what backend engineers have to do every single time they update an application. They have to write tests, manually coding hypothetical scenarios to make sure their new code won't spontaneously collapse when real users hit the servers. It is an excruciatingly manual, repetitive, and mind-numbing process. Engineers are forced to play fortune teller, trying to guess every possible way a user might break the system, and then write code to simulate it. Companies are paying top-tier, wildly expensive engineering talent to act as digital safety inspectors, who are painstakingly typing out fake traffic scenarios instead of building actual features. Vedant and Royal looked at this massive inefficiency and saw an opportunity to eliminate it entirely. In their official Launch YC announcement, the founders claimed,
CodeParrot uses production traffic to generate intelligent test cases. What's more, it can mock downstream dependencies like databases, external APIs, so you don't need to set up a test environment to run these tests.
CodeParrot was designed to be an automated safety net for your back end. Instead of forcing engineers to manually write these tests, it would plug directly into a company's infrastructure, quietly record actual, real-world user traffic, and automatically use it to aggressively test any new code before it ever went live. It promised to catch catastrophic bugs immediately, compressing days of tedious QA grunt work into seconds, without a human writing a single line of test code. They had engineered the missing link to boosting developer productivity, and the gatekeepers of Silicon Valley were finally ready to let them through.
Act 2. The Illusion.
In early 2023, CodeParrot had hit the jackpot. They were officially accepted into Y Combinator's Winter 2023 batch, packing up their bags to move from Bengaluru, India's Silicon Valley, straight to San Francisco, the original in the United States. To understand why this mattered, you have to realize that Y Combinator, or YC, is the most prestigious startup accelerator on the planet, the birthplace of Airbnb, Stripe, Dropbox, and many more. It isn't just a school for founders. It is a golden ticket and the ultimate form of institutional validation. The moment that YC brand attaches to a young company, it instantly supercharges founder confidence, commands global media coverage, and acts as a massive beacon for elite engineering talent. For an early-stage startup, getting that stamp of approval proved that the founders had successfully communicated a visionary thesis to one of the world's most selective gatekeepers. And the timing could not have been more perfect, because CodeParrot was launching right into the most explosive, hyper-accelerated technology cycle in modern history. Between late 22 and mid-25, generative AI had transformed from a technical curiosity into the defining narrative of the global software industry. A massive AI gold rush was underway. Founders hurried to build on top of large language models. Venture capital firms reprioritized their fund base for AI native investments. And corporate customers couldn't wait to experiment with tools that promised dramatic productivity gains. Within that surge, developer tooling became the hottest ticket in town. This was the dream scenario. The market was still early enough that a small, agile team could plausibly outmaneuver massive, slow-moving tech giants. Armed with their elite backgrounds, the founders easily raised an initial $500,000 or approximately 4.14 crore rupees, pre-seed war chest to fund their breakneck development. Suddenly, CodeParrot had the team, the tech, the timing, and the backing. Everything was moving at supersonic speed, compressing months of strategy into days of pure execution as they sprinted towards the absolute climax of the YC experience. Demo Day. This is the graduation ceremony where the entire ecosystem holds its breath. Just imagine standing in this enormous room. The air is virtually electric, thick with anticipation and raw desperation. Sitting in the audience are the custodians of global funds. Tier 1 venture capitalists whose checkbooks can turn a dorm room idea into a billion-dollar reality overnight. The buzz is deafening. You have just a few minutes to distill years of engineering, months of sleepless nights, and the entirety of your future into a pitch so compelling that it forces those checkbooks open. But what happens when the applause fades? The venture capitalists move on to the next slide deck, and you are left with a bank account that has just become a ticking time bomb.
Act 3. The Crack.
Historically, for a hot AI startup with a YC pedigree, Demo Day was a feeding frenzy. Founders would walk off that stage, crack open their laptops, and watch their inboxes overflow with term sheets. But for CodeParrot, the reality was chilling. Vedant and Royal delivered their pitch, asking for the follow-on capital needed to scale. But the market responded with dead silence. When the dust of Demo Day finally settled, CodeParrot walked away with nothing. Why? Because the AI landscape was shifting at a terrifying velocity. The explosive release of ChatGPT had triggered a ruthless arms race. Suddenly, every single developer tool on the market was slapping an AI label on its homepage. The sheer novelty was wearing thin, and venture capitalists were growing deeply cynical. They looked at CodeParrot and asked a brutal existential question. Is this actually a generational billion-dollar company, or just a neat feature that the likes of GitHub will eventually build themselves? This was the exact moment the startup psychology fractured. When you first raise 500 grand, it feels like infinite wealth. But the second you realize that no fresh rescue capital is coming, that $500,000 instantly transforms into a countdown clock. Suddenly, every AWS server bill, every software subscription, and every salary drawn is a visible slice of your runway vanishing. You have a rapidly shrinking window to do the impossible. Either become immediately profitable or radically change the product into something investors are actually interested in. With their backs against the wall, Vedant and Royal made the only choice they had. They pivoted. And in doing so, they descended into what Vedant later described as the darkest chapter of their entrepreneurial journey. Now, in startup lore, a pivot is often romanticized as a brilliant tactical maneuver, a swift, decisive change in direction, like a fighter jet seamlessly banking away from a missile. The reality is much uglier. It is the soul-crushing process of frantically building something, realizing users won't pay for it, tearing it down, and starting all over. CodeParrot spent roughly a year in this exhausting purgatory known as Pivot Hell. completely abandoning their original API testing thesis and desperately hunting for that elusive, sticky product market fit. Finally, they landed on their most recognizable iteration, an AI-powered plugin for VS Code that promised to convert Figma designs and raw screenshots directly into production-ready code. Now, for those of you new to UI/UX design, let's take another analogy. This time, we're constructing a luxury high-rise. First, the architect draws up a stunning 3D rendering. It looks great, but it's just an image. There's no plumbing and the doors don't open. In the tech world, this is exactly what a UI/UX designer does. They spend weeks crafting a pixel-perfect interface in a design tool like Figma. Again, it looks great, but it's just a static image. For that image to become a functioning application you can actually tap and swipe, a front-end engineer has to step in as the construction crew. They look at the design and manually lay every single digital brick, building every button, shadow, and text box by typing thousands of lines of raw code. This too is a tedious, mechanical exercise. CodeParrot's solution to this massive inefficiency was, instead of a programmer meticulously transcribing visual pixels into the language of machines, their AI tool would instantly parse the layout, style, and semantic information to generate production-ready code. It promised to understand your specific coding preferences, reuse your existing component libraries, and compress days of front-end work into a matter of seconds. The new mission statement was, "Ship stunning UI lightning fast." They locked themselves into a year-long private beta. At first glance, the product felt like pure magic. Early users were genuinely blown away. But real-world software engineering is messy, and the integration proved to be a nightmare. When developers actually used the tool, the AI would instantly generate the code, but it also frequently choked on complex edge cases, unique styling, and custom business logic. Engineers quickly realized they were spending almost as much time cleaning up the AI's sloppy output as they would have spent just writing it manually from scratch. The core promise of saving time simply evaporated. And even if they could perfect the tech, they were fighting a losing war against sheer platform power. Vercel, a prominent software infrastructure company in the front-end world, launched its own native UI generator. Figma, the very platform CodeParrot relied on, began heavily curating its own internal ecosystem of native AI plugins. Other companies too, like Lovable, partnered directly with massive platforms like Builder.io to bake their tools into existing trusted marketplaces. CodeParrot were fighting a ground war against empires with infinite air support. They simply couldn't crack the distribution channel.
Act 4. The Fade.
By mid-2025, the music had finally stopped. After 2.5 years of grinding, navigating through Pivot Hell and battling platform monopolies, CodeParrot had managed to scrap together roughly $1,500 in monthly recurring revenue. It was nowhere near enough to sustain the business, and it was certainly not enough to convince investors to write a fresh check. So Royal Jain and Vedant Agarwala made the courageous, brutal decision to pull the plug. When announcing the closure of the company on LinkedIn, Vedant said,
"We didn't raise on demo day. We spent the next year stuck at Pivot Hell, searching for what our company really wanted to be. We burned through the $500,000 we had raised, and when we hit $1,500 MRR with our final pivot, Figma to code using LLMs, we couldn't break through. Instead of running more experiments with dwindling runway, we decided it was time to shut shop.
If you strip away the YC prestige and the frantic pivots, the CodeParrot case study boils down to 3 absolute, undeniable lessons for anyone trying to dig a moat in the AI era. For starters, CodeParrot operated in a category where technical demonstrations could create disproportionate enthusiasm. But a strong demo is only the start of the business journey. Venture quality companies require repeatable value, monetization, distribution, and defensibility. The gap between a compelling AI demo and a sustainable company remains one of the most misunderstood issues in the AI startup wave. The impact of this gap was felt when they failed to raise at YC Demo Day. Because once funding failed to materialize, every product decision had to be made under greater financial pressure, and every future investor conversation was colored by the absence of initial momentum. This missed opportunity changed the company's entire trajectory, trapping it in pivot hell, which takes us to the most important learning. Repeated pivots can destroy as much value as they create. A single pivot can be considered a strategic adaptation, but a year of pivot hell usually indicates that a startup has not yet found the right combination of customer, problem, and timing. Every pivot dilutes your brand, alienates your early adopters, and incinerates your momentum. You cannot always iterate your way to the perfect product. In AI, this is especially true because the market itself evolves while the startups still remain searching. By the time the company has settled on a product, the opportunity may have narrowed. Lastly, we look at the illusion of the 80% solution. Generative AI is currently trapped in a dangerous valley. It is incredibly good at doing 80% of a task instantly. But in enterprise software, 80% is useless if the remaining 20% requires extensive, frustrating human intervention to fix. Until AI can perfectly integrate into bespoke, messy, proprietary environments without causing friction, it will remain a novelty rather than an indispensable utility. CodeParrot had a brilliant piece of technology, but they hadn't solved the actual workflow problem. The friction of integration was simply too high to justify a massive enterprise subscription. But in the end, the closure of CodeParrot was not an isolated incident. In the summer of 2025, the Indian startup ecosystem saw a wave of AI closures. Companies like Woori, Subtle.ai, and Locale.ai all shut their doors as the reality of the AI gold rush began to set in. CodeParrot's story therefore reflects both the ambition and the harsher strategic conditions of India's newer startup era. The first large Indian startup wave of the 2010s centered on e-commerce, logistics, ride-hailing, and fintech. Those sectors were shaped by local market frictions, mobile adoption, and regulatory or infrastructure gaps unique to India. But this new generation of Indian founders are no longer merely local adapters. Many are global-first principle builders. This shifting landscape has also fundamentally changed the anatomy of a failure, which leaves us with an impossible question. How do today's founders still make sure they achieve product speed and capital efficiency while managing investor expectations shaped by the best global benchmarks? That's the design delivered for the week. No system crashes, no endless debugging. Just a clear run from start to finish. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed to the flop side so you don't miss what's coming next. But before we power down the servers, here's a well-kept secret of the tech industry. If all the free, open source software that companies depend on disappeared tomorrow, it would cost the world $8.8 trillion to rebuild. For context, India's GDP last year was just under $4 trillion. The apps on your phone, the websites you use every day, the AI tools everyone is suddenly obsessed with, the backbone of it all was written by people working in their spare time, never paid a single rupee. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all of them are running billion-dollar businesses on top of code that someone just gave away for free. Now, if you've got an interesting take on anything to do with the startup world or a pitch deck you want us to dissect, find us on Instagram at theflopside.podcast. I'm your host Priyanka, and I'm here with my co-creator Nandita. We'd like to thank you for hanging out with us this week on The Flop Side, where we show you the flip side of flop startups.